Hello, my name's Nick Simmonds. I'm an adult cystic fibrosis physician at the Royal Brompton Hospital in London. I'm also the UK lead investigator for an important project called HIT-CF. This project stands for Human Individualised Therapy in Cystic Fibrosis. And the whole purpose of this project is to accelerate the development of new therapies for people with rare cystic fibrosis mutations. So, of course, we're all extremely pleased with the news of Kaftrio and the other CFTR modulators, which are available in the UK. And of course, Kaftrio is an important therapy and it will treat a majority of people with cystic fibrosis, particularly with the more common mutations, particularly the delta F508 mutation. But there is a very important minority that do not carry these mutations. They carry so-called rare cystic fibrosis mutations. And this is about 10 to 15% of the cystic fibrosis population in this country and many countries around the world. And the HIT-CF program is there to accelerate drug development for people with these rare mutations. So I'm here just to give you a brief overview of what it is, where we're up to, so that you're aware that there really is important research that's progressing well for people with rare mutations. Because whilst the news is great for Kaftrio and the other CFTR modulators, we want to ensure that we develop drugs which are effective for everyone with cystic fibrosis. So HIT-CF program, it's a Europe-wide program. It's led by a team in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And I'm the UK lead investigator and have been coordinating it from a UK perspective. It's been run through the ECFS Clinical Trials Network, but also with support from the UK CF Trust CTAP programme to ensure that we've enrolled as many patients as we possibly can in the UK for this programme. And the whole purpose is, like I say, to accelerate drug development for people with rare mutations. And it's a two-staged programme. The first stage is the stage where so-called organoids are developed. Now, what this is a very novel, very neat way to test an individual person's responsiveness to new therapies in the laboratory. What we do is we've been taking biopsies, and these are rectal biopsies, and that might sound a bit odd, but the reason it's a rectal biopsy is because actually there's a lot of CF gene product there, and we can therefore use it to test your specific gene, the rare gene, in a test tube in a laboratory. And actually, although it sounds a horrible procedure, it's a very quick, basically painless procedure that's done very fast just to get a small bit of tissue. And this tissue is sent to the laboratory and these so-called organoids are grown. And this is live mini organ tissue. It's a very, very small microscopic piece of tissue, but it basically is a piece of tissue that has the rare CF genes in it, gene mutations in it. And then the neat part about this is within that test tube experiment, you add new products that are coming along, new drugs that are under development that we think will work for people with rare mutations to see if in the test tube the cells do what they're supposed to be doing now that the drug is correcting the problem. So you add the drug, obviously before the drug has been added, the CF gene does not work very well. You add the drug and then you look again to see if there's responsiveness. And if the drug is doing what it's supposed to be doing, i.e. correcting the faulty protein, the faulty gene protein, then you can measure that as a responsiveness. And then the second stage to the program is an actual clinical trial whereby we've taken those patients, those individuals with cystic fibrosis that show responsiveness to these new therapies, and they're put into a clinical trial to show that in the real world what's happened in the test tube hopefully will also happen in the individual with cystic fibrosis. So it's a really neat way on an individual level to check for effectiveness with these new therapies and then to test that. Now, within that, there is therefore going to be a large number of people in whom they have had these biopsies taken. And the majority of the people that go into the clinical trial section, this is part 2 of HIT-CF program, are the so-called responders. But to check the theory that this really works, there will also be another group of people who in the test tube didn't respond, so we can really see if the theory works, and if it does, and if we've proved on a scientific level, on a clinical trial level, that the effectiveness in the patients, so based on lung function, based on sweat test, correlates with the test tube responsiveness. That is a fantastic way to show that our little model in the test tube is a marker of responsiveness for people with rare mutations. And then hopefully from that we'll be able to go to the people that market these drugs or regulate these drugs and show them this scientific evidence to accelerate the whole development program and access of these new therapies that are coming through for people with rare mutations. So that's in brief the HIT-CF program. The good news, it's well and truly underway. As I've said, there are two parts to this program. Part one is the recruitment of 500 people across Europe with these rare cystic fibrosis mutations to take the biopsies. And I'm pleased to say that this has already been completed across many countries across Europe, including the UK. Over 50 patients were recruited in the UK to contribute to this important science. Currently, therefore, in the laboratories, there are 3 laboratories across Europe that are now culturing or developing these organoids. They are looking at their drug responsiveness of these organoids. And those laboratories are well and truly accelerating through all these different organoids to do such a thing, to do that, so we can see who's responded and who hasn't from an organoid perspective. So that is part one, and it is already well and truly underway. All the patients have been recruited, and through the CF-CTAP program, so Clinical Trial Accelerator platform, we were able to recruit, like I say, over 50 patients across the UK with rare mutations. If you didn't get into the trial program, it doesn't matter in that sense. You might feel disappointed, but please don't feel disappointed, because, like I say, this program is there to hopefully prove that this science works, to then enable it to help others with rare mutations, so beyond the actual clinical HIT-CF research program itself. So part two is the actual clinical trial itself of individuals with CF. So the majority are going to be the responders from the organoid part of the program, but there'll be a small number of non-responders to test if there is a difference. And these trials, so there's going to be at least 2 drug trials, which is part 2 of the HIT-CF program, to be assessed in people with CF based on the organoids. And the first drug trial program is due to start at the end of this year, so the end of 2020. And planning is well and truly underway. I'm pleased to say that there's already been set up programs underway across the countries that were taking part originally, so including the UK. And again, it will be run through the ECFS Clinical Trials Network. So we hope that the first trial will be open at the end of this year. Yes, COVID-19 has caused some delays along the way, but I'm pleased to say now that things are progressing in a nice, efficient way. As I've said, the labs have already processed most of the organoid products already. So that's the first drug program, and then the second drug program will be happening sort of it's planned mid of next year, 2021. Again, it's a similar program, but it's with a different new therapy to test after testing them in the organoids and then testing them in the humans, testing them in the individuals with cystic fibrosis. So, in terms of numbers to benefit, well, as I've said, in the actual research side of it, it's 500 people across Europe, and then in terms of the clinical trials themselves, it's about 100 people that will go into the clinical trials. In the UK, about 50 people have been recruited. But like I say, the whole purpose of this is therefore to prove that this principle can work, to then hopefully extend this type of research for others, and to get these drugs to people with rare mutations in a fast, efficient and proven scientifically way, and that's the important thing here. That really brings me to the end of the overview of HitCF and the rare CFTR mutation program. I hope you found this helpful. There is further information available through the CF Trust Trials Tracker website, but also through the HitCF website itself. And as more news becomes available, I'm sure that will be disseminated to the CF community. So thank you very much for listening, and good afternoon.